you can mold that, you can make it fun, you can do a lot with it, but having some core values is what you then live by. We as a team, for instance, we've got several core values. One is we are a team of experts, and we will always hold that whenever we're talking to anybody, whether it's about a strategy, whether it's about, follow-up or leads. We will always hold our value of we are the experts in what we do. So we will always give you the best recommendations, the best advice. And we do truly, literally live by those daily. Okay, so what is your mission? A brand mission is a clear and concise image that communicates the core purpose of your business. It explains why your childcare business exists and what you aim to accomplish, and how you plan to make that impact in the lives of children and families that you serve. For a ECE business, the brand mission typically focuses on values like education, safety, nurturing, and community. It should resonate with both parents and team members, serving a reminder of the positive change and impact that the business can bring and the families you can support. For instance, a mission statement could be, at Little Leaders Academy, our mission is to foster a love of learning, creativity, and kindness in every child, empowering them to become compassionate leaders of tomorrow. It's very clear what they're wanting to do, and it's very concise. So I've put some questions together that you can use to help you create your brand mission.
Are these also come in that guide as well, the template for people to download?
They are, yes.
Awesome.
Everything that we'll go through today is in that template, and it's a getting starting point for you to put together your mission, your values, your positioning. So just things like, and you'll find some of it is repeated because it all comes back to the same thing about creating a message of consistency and how you want your brand to be seen by other people. So like what values are most important to your business? What makes your business different from others in the area? And what do you want parents to feel when they drop off their children at your centre? I always like to include that one because I think it's really good.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I'd be surprised how many people actually answer that or reiterate that to the team, because at the end of the day, we all do the basic training for our team around, how you meet and greet a parent. But actually, what do you want parents to feel? That's a really good question to get them to think about. Well, do all your team understand that? I would probably guess most centres don't articulate that anywhere near enough.
Absolutely, because it comes back down to the emotional connection that a person's got with the brand. So if we are thinking about their feelings, we're elevating this from a brand strategy that's just on paper to actually putting it into place and utilising, those things that we come up with off the bat.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. So we now move on to brand touch points. And brand touch points, we could go on for days and weeks about brand touch points. Basically, a brand touch point is anywhere that your customer comes into contact with you as a business. So it could be a flyer that you see down at the local supermarket. It could be an advert that you see on Facebook. It could be a website. It can even be word of mouth. So it can be what somebody else is saying about you as well. And we have to think about touch points because we have to think about how our brand is going to sit on various mediums and also what people are going to say about our brand as well. So touch points is a big one. So we've got just having a list of them or some sort of table that documents how and what customers will come into contact with you can be very useful, because sometimes we don't actually think about how our brand looks on a certain platform, or we might think, oh, I've designed this lovely image or I've got this lovely image, but actually in terms of the sizing on a different platform, it won't look that good. It'll crop something off. So we do have to think about how it'll sit on in various places.
And just on that one, do you recommend to work down like a checklist that one by one, and then how often do they go back and review that? Would you recommend?
Yeah, I think to start with, you've got sort of your pre-purchase, so your pre-enrollment stage. You've got the stage where they enroll, and then your post. I think obviously it's a big thing and there's lots of components that you could include. I think you start with the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So, for instance, on your pre-purchase, you look at how you're advertising. Is your brand consistent? Whether you're doing posts on Facebook, utilizing printed assets, and a website. So, looking at those three things first, and just making sure you've got the basics covered in terms of you've got that continuity. You might still want to then go back and improve them, but making sure they've got some consistency in what your general message is. And then in the enrollment phase, I would say pick a couple that you want to start with. So, for instance, customer service would be a real big one, and something that you should do up front, making sure that your team are all aligned with how you want, to greet people, how you want to do the tour. And then the post enrollment, it's how you're staying in contact with parents, a welcome kit. You can develop these. What I've done in the document that I've created is created a small checklist of like the fundamental things for brand touch points. And as we move down, we'll give out more information about other things that you can then do, because as I said, there's so many different brand touch points. I think you start with the basics, you start with, your fundamentals, and then you go back, you can go back and improve them, but then also widen the scope a little bit with extra things within that phase. So the checklist I've got will allow you to see what you've already got in place, identify anything that you haven't potentially got in place, and you can use it as a building block.
Love that. Awesome.
And then we move to tone of voice. Now, tone of voice I think it's one of the most forgotten parts of brand messaging and brand strategies, because I think that sometimes we can think that actually that isn't very important. But I think that if we look at a few examples here, so even if your emails, how do you sign off your emails, or how do you greet people? Is it a hi? Is it a hey, a hello, howdy? All of those 4 different examples come from very different settings. So the hi is quite casual. The hello is a little bit more formal. The howdy is very playful. So first of all, and in the grand scheme of things, people might not think this is the most important thing, but ultimately, if we've got that consistency, it can massively help, and it portrays the type of business you are as well. If I was to use howdy, that'd be quite a playful tone of voice. So I would then carry that throughout any messaging, any communication that I was doing to parents. And it can help, just if you've got that consistency and everybody's coming from the same place, it can really set you apart because you look so much more professional. If it's always consistent and it's always representing who you are as a brand, these are the things that people see if you don't do them. If I get several emails from the same company and they don't start in the same way in terms of how they sort of open the email, or they close them in different way, I think it looks a little bit shoddy. I think that they haven't thought about it, and I think that, to be honest, it's quite a quick win. And
Yeah, it's a good point. We actually do the same with our podcast. All the podcasts are started the same, all the lives are started the same way.
Yeah.
We use this, and subconsciously, I guess we weren't really thinking about that, but we do it. It's actually really interesting. I even down to maybe how this applies on the phone too. If someone, for example, uses the word "hey" and that's their tone of voice, well, why not use that when they answer the phone too? It should be consistent out of everything that we do. Wherever there's any tone of voice, it should be consistent.
Absolutely. Okay, so we go now to, and these are just some pointers for helping your tone of voice. So it's coming back to understanding the audience. Think about the parents that you're serving. if you turn around to one of them and said howdy, it might be offensive. They might not quite like it. So you really do have to think about your audience, where and this is where the audience personas comes in. First time dad Dave, what would he like? He might like, hey, it's pretty casual, but also you've got that professional approach. Reflect your brand's personality. Now, you know, a brand can have whatever personality it wants to. It comes down back to the core values and how you want to be perceived by your customers. But please make sure it matches. There's nothing worse than having a really playful, really sort of out there, vibrant brand, but then, you know, the wording is very, very, it doesn't align with everything else. And again, be consistent. Use the same tone across all communication channels, whether it's digitally, verbally, anything. It can help build trust and recognition. And the next one that we go on to is, and this is for if you haven't got a brand name. So just some tips on starting to create a brand name. Always choose something memorable. Pick a name that is easy to remember, that is easy to spell, and is easy to type. And because this will help when it comes to, you know, people passing on information, typing it in a URL online. So something like Little Sprouts Childcare rather than the best early learning and child development centre in the world. You know, it sort of rolls off the tongue a little bit, Little Sprouts Childcare. Make it fun, make it friendly, make it warm. Choose words that invoke warmth, emotion. Highlight your USPs in strapline, and use positive and emotional words. Again, it's coming back to the emotive. So happy sprouts rather than sad, miserable little sprouts. You know, there's a very big connotation. There's you know, that comes with words, and so we just have to be careful when we're choosing words that we use. Also check the domain availability to see if it is available. This is a big one, because nothing worse than going and having a logo designed, getting lots of printed assets, and then you come to get the domain because you want a website and it's not available.
Yeah.
So what do? You have to either, you know, reprint everything or have an inconsistency. Also, do a Google search as well to see how many other people have that same business name, because it's worth identifying. You know, you come across some names that can be very, very common, and then if you do a search of that name, you get, you know, 1,200 come up.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit more difficult then for you to start standing out digitally, organic traffic, you know, when people are searching organically.
Yeah, we used to call this the Google slap. It's now called the social slap, because obviously, you know, Google is obviously one of those platforms that historically has been known as the #1 search platform, but we all know that's changing.
Yeah.
But you are right, because we were talking to someone the other day, a 26-year-old center director, and she purely uses TikTok to search, you know, and if you're going to go online and search for, I don't know, Little Sprouts Childcare, you're going to get, you know, you never know what's going to come up. No. So I think it's really important. You know, I couldn't agree more with you. There was a company we work with, a guy called Todd Brown. He had this very unique name that was also his proprietary system, his platform, and everything you searched just purely came up with his brand. And I just think it's one of those things that, you know, I couldn't agree more. I think the other point there to touch on, Kim, as well, is try to choose something that's not really common. Absolutely. Because that's another big thing. I think people just go with the commonality terms, or they use terminology that people don't understand as well.
That's so it. Yeah. There's always a risk of making it too complicated.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't mean anything. There's and this is an example I've been thinking about. There's a company by me, and I saw the sign, and it was CK Hair, and I know that's a little bit sort of, you know, different area, but
no, that's fine.
A CK Hair, and I thought to myself, what is that? Is it a wig shop? Is it hairdressers?
Fair point.
Is it a male hairdressers, female hairdressers? I know CK, it might look nice and you might feel proud to have your initials or two names on the sign, but it doesn't mean anything to me in this world. And
Yeah.
if I'm looking for a service, if I can't understand what your service is based off a name or a visual, I'm not then going to go searching for what you offer. I'm going to go to the next one down the list that is very clear, very concise, and I fully understand what, are they for me.
Yeah, it's a very good show. Very good show.
So yeah, it's important to see what's out there, and like we say, non-generic names. Think about the longevity of it as well. Something that won't feel outdated. Don't go back to the 90s and start putting everything, 2020, 1990 or anything like that on. And test it out loud, speak it, see if it rolls off the tongue easily. Because if you're wanting people to verbally recommend you to people, you want something that actually everybody can pronounce. And it's lovely to make sure that everybody can actually say the name that is your business.
Yeah, there's two other examples there, if you don't mind me touching on them. One of them is Academy. Academy became a kind of trend word. But then actually a lot of people end up being stuck with the word academy and wanted to come away from that because they realized that parents had a totally different conception of what an academy stood for. So that's one. Another one I think is just to be very, very careful is, preschool. People don't understand sometimes what preschool is, or the third one I want to touch on is STEM. STEM became very big, then it dropped off a little bit, and it kind of goes through fads. I think it's trending, then it's not trending. And I think you just have to be careful. I personally feel it's better to have your own unique proprietary name that's easy to understand, that doesn't follow necessarily the trend that might potentially run out 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So these are great points to follow. And again, this is all available for you guys in the template that Kim has created. So, okay, Kim, where are we going on to next?
So now we just come to the visual identity. So when you're creating a brand, a visual identity, you want to define the style and feel of your business. So it might be that you are academy based, which all come with certain visuals, come with certain styles. It might be that you're nature based. It might be that you want to be playful and colorful, and it's important that you consider that when starting to create a brand. You can use colors is a big thing as well. There's even psychology behind color. There's color theory. Blue is known for being trustworthy and safe. Yellow, happiness and energy. Green, growth and health, and nature, of course. Pink, warmth and care. And red, excitement and attention grabbing. So these are all things that you do have to consider. The one thing that I would say, if you are at this point where you're choosing a visual identity and starting to build a visual identity, keep the color palettes to 2 to 4 colors. We can start putting every single color in just because we like the look of it, but ultimately it has to fit with what your values and who you are as a business. And also, we don't want any visuals to be over cluttered with color. Make sure it looks good in black and white. There is every time, almost in every situation, when you're creating a logo, make sure it looks good in black and white, because that will give you an idea if it's a good design. Match the colors to your brand values. So if you're, nature, outdoor play, using greens and browns, match it to who you are as a brand. Okay. The fonts also, it can be super fun when picking fonts, and we can get so carried away. We can say, oh, that looks nice, that looks great as well. What we have to sometimes do is take a moment and step back and stop thinking about what we like, and think about, well, where is this text, where is this font style going to sit? If it's going to sit on websites, if it's going to sit on printed collateral, the font could range from really big for signage to really small for business cards. If you've got something that's really scripted or hard to read, it's going to actually have a negative impact, because if people can't see the text, they're just going to come off the the website, or they're not going to be able to read the business card. So it's important that you get something that's readable. And I would say use a maximum of 2 fonts. Keep it to like a header and a content font, just because it really helps.
Just one thing there as well, we found in the past as well, is sometimes trying to get things embroidered that
Yes.
have elaborate fonts is a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
And also as well, if you have multiple colors that you touched on just now, is
Mhm.
another logistical nightmare
It
trying
is.
to get things printed. That's why we have, obviously, with EC Mastery and with CBG, it's the same 3 colors over and over.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And this is something definitely I learned from Kim. So keep it simple.
Yes. Okay, a few things not to do. So don't use generic clip art logos, because somebody up the road is probably doing something similar, and then before you know it, you've got a logo that looks exactly the same. Do some investment in a logo. It doesn't have to cost the earth, but yeah, do something that's got a bit of substance to it in the initial stages. Don't ignore social media, even if you've got a simple Facebook page that helps build credibility. That's key, credibility and just building your reputation. Don't change your branding consistently. It confuses customers. If you do see some people that, I don't like this color anymore, so I'm not going to use it, which that's fine. But your customers have actually got used to what your colors are. And it comes back to the recognition piece. You don't always see Nike, you don't always see McDonald's changing things about their logo. And so that is important. And don't just base your brand visuals off your preferences, because that can end up being a mistake. You really do have to think about your customers, and how you're going to appeal to them. And let me just refresh. Oh, it's not gonna.
Okay.
We've got some examples here of websites. So building a website, making sure that we have simple and easy to navigate websites, making sure that people can opt in, making sure that people can actually contact you, making sure that people can find information out about you, and really important, make sure it's mobile friendly. 80 to 90% of traffic now we are seeing is on mobile. So mobile is actually probably more important than website, making sure that it's a user friendly experience, making sure people can easily find information, and making sure it looks good as well. It's really important. Okay.
I think the one there, Kim, I was just going to touch on. I don't know if you have the other images there, but I'll share. Feel free to stop sharing a second. I'll just share my screen if you want to make that tweak. But give me 1 second here. So one of the things I was going to show you guys is 2 examples Kim and I want to include. Hopefully you can see my screen there, Kim.
Oh.
Can you see my screen in the background?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you look at this particular one of the things I think you notice as soon as you land on this site is that you can already tell what type of facility this is. It's a very high-end private academy, and then obviously you've got the location. It's in Orlando. Compared to this one, very, very different look and feel. A lot more nature-based. You can see obviously the leaves, the color scheme. There's a great outdoor facility. So you can see that they're probably going to have their children outdoors quite a lot here, because it's very, very nature-based. Now, if you're a family, for example, that doesn't want your child outdoors, maybe in winter months, maybe you might think about not going to this particular facility. But the point is here is perception is everything. And people are going to judge you as soon as they land on the site. They're going to look at this one as a very corporate one compared to this one, which is a lot more nature-based. You can see it straight away in the brand. So I hope you didn't mind me sharing that, Kim. I think it's super important to kind of highlight that, from our side, or particularly from a client's perspective, sometimes we see websites that are very generic, that it doesn't tell me who they are, what they do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's get your screen back up.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Awesome. There you go. You've got your 2
Perfect.
there.
Okay. And then making sure you're showcasing your personality. So Nick's just touched upon it. If you're, outdoors, nature based, that's the sort of vibe that you want on your website. Make sure you've got clear CTAs. Make sure people can sign up to have a tour, and also make sure you've got a place where people can see reviews of you as well. Now you won't have, everybody has to build up reviews. It's something that you have to do over time. But any chance you've got the opportunity to get reviews, it can have a massive impact. And just some final thoughts. So a solid brand guide and strategy aren't just for the big players. They're the secret weapon for businesses of all size. Whether you're a startup or a seasoned empire, having clear brand foundations really can help in terms of messaging, visuals, and overall message on point. Consistency is king, and if anybody takes anything away from this today, it is that consistency thing. It can really help set you apart. With a strong strategy in place, you'll never have to second guess your look or voice. So all of the decisions are already made. You don't have to think about, what design do I want for that new flyer? Well, you'll have it in your brand guides. Ensuring your audience always knows and loves what to expect from you. So stay consistent, stay memorable, and watch your brand shine. And then we also have the document that I've put together for everybody. I'll just share that real quick, just so you can see. And it just breaks down, your competitor research, your brand positioning statement, your brand story, and you can fill all of these in. And this should help you. And if you haven't got a brand and you're wondering, you don't know which way to go at the moment, there's a little quiz in there as well that you can take that might be able to help you choose the sort of visual vibe that you are going to want to go for.
Love that. Love that. And you mentioned as well, I know we touched on earlier, you had there were some tools that people could connect to as well.
Yes.
There's one around choosing your color palettes, etc., that you touched on. One last, I've got a question for you, Kim, around using AI to create your logo. What's your thoughts and ideas around this?
I think it's controversial. As a designer, I would potentially use it to generate ideas, to try and put everything in that I wanted to incorporate. And then from there, I would develop it and make it a little bit more individualized. So I think it can be useful.
Yeah. So use it more as a kind of get my ideas initially, and then bring that to an actual designer that can then bring that together to a greater level.
Yeah.
Interesting. Love that. Okay. Any last tips or anything that, we have a lot of people obviously at different sizes within the program, right the way from being brand new all the way up to being a multi-site. I think one of the things I love about what you just touched on is there are elements there that all levels could benefit from. Right out of the gate, some are being brand new, things that they need to be aware of when they first start in, right the way up to maybe a large corporate company right now that might not be consistent with their messaging across their different platforms, or they might not be consistent with their tone of voice or how they speak to parents on the phone or the content they put out online. So I think I can't thank you enough. I think there's some great stuff. Any last tips that you would give? Let's take someone as a starting point right now, someone brand new. What would be your number one tip for someone out there that is literally just getting started?
Just write 5 key words or phrases down on a piece of paper of things that you would like to see as part of your brand, how you want people to feel. So if it's nature, natural, outdoors, calming, that sort of thing, and just get 5 points that you want your brand to make people feel or how you want it to look. Because it'll give you a starting point, and it's very, very simple.
Love that. So, Kim, I cannot thank you enough. This is a great session. I know you've got some follow-up sessions coming around brand and how we can take this to a whole nother level. All this content, as usual, will be obviously available inside the EC Mastery program. If you haven't checked out EC Mastery, make sure you go and check out ecmastery.com. It is a great online coaching program helping childcare businesses or early education business owners all around the world. So go and check that out. Thank you as always. And of course, if you guys have any comments or questions off the back of this, make sure you drop them down below. both Kim and myself will do our best to come back to you and get all those answers as well. So, Kim, thanks for the great session. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you guys soon.